It's The Law Show on CL 650. A comprehensive look at everything you need to know about the law. You can't always get what you want. You can't always get what you want.
That's your business. You're in the business of saying you can't always get what you want.
That's correct.
You have the family law, and we're focusing on it this time around. And joining us in studio, we have David Halkett, a partner at McQuarrieHunter, and Leah Donaldson, associate at McQuarrieHunter in beautiful downtown Surrey.
That's correct.
So is that now the new Central City? Is that now officially downtown Surrey?
It is. It's actually called the Downtown Surrey Business Improvement Association area. So
right.
Yeah. And
it's a good spot. I guess McQuarrieHunter started in New West originally, right?
It did, yeah. There was a bunch of partners came together in 1967, I believe.
Right. And is that a good spot for you guys at McQuarrieHunter to be down in the middle of Surrey? Because you're right on transit.
Yeah, it's great for that. It's a burgeoning area. There's a lot of towers going up. It's a growing community, and it's the second kind of lower mainland downtown, and we're right in the center of it in the Central City Tower.
And when you have family law practice that is sort of, you're a boutique inside McQuarrieHunter, right?
That's correct.
So can Leah maybe explain how that works? So you have a full-service firm?
We do have a full-service firm, so we offer a variety of legal services, but there's actually 3 lawyers inside the firm that offer family law services. So it's myself, David Halkett, and Sarah Morse.
Is that unique?
It is for a larger firm because we actually promote ourselves as having a family law department. A lot of other larger firms may have one or two lawyers who do it, but it's only kind of an offshoot of other work, whereas we actually are family law lawyers.
So they practice other parts of law, and then someone comes in, they say, oh, I can take that on.
Exactly.
But that's all you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Leah, you do a little bit of the estate side too, right?
I also do estate litigation.
And do they overlap?
They often do overlap, so I find that it complements both practice areas.
Well, what I'm getting at is you're a boutique inside a major firm in Surrey, and is that a kind of a destination in the Surrey area? Are you well known for family law in Surrey?
We are, yeah. We have a good presence in Surrey. We also represent, of course, people outside the Surrey area, but we are one of the larger family law departments in the Surrey area.
Now, Leah, you're an associate there. When are they going to make you partner?
Soon, I hope.
So I wanted to get into why you decided to get into family law. Obviously, you have the estate side, but what is it that intrigued you about this part of the law? Because there's so many ways you can go when you get called to the bar, right? Absolutely.
I just enjoy dealing with regular people. Not everybody that comes into a law firm is familiar with lawyers. And I also find that the issues that they're dealing with are common across the board, something that everyone deals with. It's a good feeling to be able to help people with those issues.
Mm-hmm. Is it? And so in other parts of law, are you kind of away from the public?
More so, if you do certain areas of law, if you're dealing with corporations and things like that, you don't get the sort of nitty-gritty details of, family and emotional issues like you do with family law.
And David, we've talked many times about how when you started practicing, it really was a part of law that was dominated by women, and you kind of stand out as a man. It
was kind of the area that when I was in law school that the female students were pushed towards. Now it's not that way, but in those days it was. I was one of those guys that thought that I wanted to do corporate solicitor work downtown, and that's what they kind of push you to in law school. But when I kind of fell into this area, it as Leah said, you're dealing with everyday individuals, and their everyday problems, and we can relate to those because a lot of us have gone through those in our own life. So it's every case is different. Unlike if you're doing some kind of work at pretty similar kind of work every day, we never know from every phone call what that case is going to be like.
And I would also imagine that interesting part of your practice is dealing with people, being in the office, there's a lot of, you've told me before, there's a lot of paperwork in family law.
There is, yes.
But also you get to break out of there and go to court. I mean, that's the side of law that a lot of lawyers don't do, is they don't go to court, and you get to. Is that fun?
It is. It's the most fun for me, is the arguing.
It's my favorite part as well.
So what is it about that? Is it a bit of a rush?
It is. Yeah. I remember a trial lawyer told me once that, most once you go to court, we're adrenaline junkies, and there is a shot of adrenaline every time your file is called. and you never know exactly what's going to happen. Like, we can go in there and think we have our case perfectly mapped out, and the judge goes off on a little tangent that takes us away from it. And, you know, every time is learning experience, and you never know what's going to happen. So it's kind of like going to Las Vegas, and as they say, it's a crapshoot. You never know if you're going to come up snake eyes or if it's going to turn out really well.
Now, one of our regular guests on the show is Joe Murphy. He's a personal injuries.
Yep.
That's the category. But he says a bit of theater with going to court that he likes. He likes a bit of the putting on a bit of a performance, right?
And also, I think it's a good opportunity for your client to see the work that you've done and put in, and they see it presented in, you know, the best way possible. Whereas if you don't go to court, your client doesn't always get to see the amount of work that you've put in behind the scenes.
So going to court for somebody in family law is maybe the interesting part for you, but at the same time you must be working to not get there. So
Well, yeah.
I mean, your real job is looking after your client, but if you have to go to court, you have to go to court. But you go to court more often than a lot of other areas of law because you need a ruling on things, right?
In many instances, yeah. Still 95% of our cases don't make it to trial at the Supreme Court level. They resolve, but there's a lot of applications along the way, and there's often follow-up applications. So like a couple of years after you've dealt with the children issues, they get older. They may want to move or maintenance changes. So there's always those little applications that you have to make. And there's a lot of just showing up and having to make your case. And as Leah said, your client then sees the work you've done. And so it's always good for us to have our clients there, because if things, you know, on occasion don't go as well as you had hoped, at least they see that it wasn't because you didn't do what you weren't supposed to do. And they can see the effort that we put in for them.
And you mentioned you go to court and you have a judge and they maybe go off, as you said, on a tangent you're not expecting. So that way, I guess you can also show your clients that it's really, you get a different judge, you get a different outcome.
Exactly.
And that's where you have to warn them before you go that we're really at the mercy of the court.
And we usually don't know who our judge is for certain kind of applications or trials until either the day of or, if you're really lucky, like around 4 o'clock the day before. So there's no judge shopping or anything like that. It's the luck of the draw.
Now, can you explain a judge dealing with family issues? Don't just deal with family. They're broad spectrum.
Yep.
They deal with all issues. And so there's, say, 100 judges sitting on the bench. You have no idea who you're going to get. You could get a judge who, while they practice law, was in a criminal field their entire practice, or a judge that was in the family practice their entire practice. So you just don't know how much knowledge they're going to have as a background. And so that's basically our job, is to make sure that if they don't have that expertise, we have to walk them through it, provide them with the basis for why we're there, and hope that we're successful.
And that's the homework.
Exactly. Like I had an application about 10 days ago that is a brand new judge, and she asked very important and pertinent questions, but she's a new judge who hadn't done family law. So other judges wouldn't have asked those questions because they would have already known or had a good idea. So it's as Leah said.
So you're leading them along a little bit.
Exactly. It's the key is to make sure that the questions they ask actually kind of benefit you, and that they're only asking for clarification. The last thing you want is for a judge to not know and not understand what you're saying. So our job is to
paint a picture for them, right?
Exactly.
Make it easy
a story.
For them. Yeah.
So they know.
Absolutely. So you're both practicing in family law, and I'm sure that there's some tears along the way, mostly your clients.
Yeah, sometimes us.
So, Leah, why don't you describe, so someone's come to you, and now when they come to you, have they already made up their mind, or sometimes do they just want to see where they stand if they were to proceed with separating?
Often I see people that have not yet decided. So they're coming to get some information and educate themselves about the next steps in the process, whether or not they decide to separate. And it's often the case that I see someone, 6 months later, they come back and now they have actually made the decision. It's a process. This isn't sort of a business decision. People are kind of, it's moving parts. And so when they come back the second time is usually when they've made the decision, and then they already have that education that I've provided for them. And then they're ready to go at that point.
And how many people will come to you, will talk about maybe separating, come back, and then start the process of getting a divorce and then change their mind? Is it how many people reconcile through the process? Because you probably get more communication happening through the divorce process than you would have sitting at the kitchen table many times, right?
Yeah, I've only ever had one where they actually got back together, and it remained for long term. Because often by the time they come to see Leah and me, they've pretty well made a decision, especially if it's, as she said, sometimes they come back 6 months later. But, you know, you're right. They do talk more, and they're forced to. The problem with the litigation system is that things then get said that can't be taken back, either in affidavits or in court or whatever, and the positions get entrenched. So sometimes, oddly enough, starting the proceeding is, even if they want to reconcile, actually is counterproductive.
Because once it's on the record.
Exactly.
And then feelings get hurt even more, especially accusations of not being a good parent, those sorts of things.
Because I've had a lot of cases where they were a great father or a great mother till they separated. Then all of a sudden, if all you do is list out all the negatives someone ever did, you know.
The list can get long.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. It's that fine line, they say, between love and hate.
Exactly.
Do you see that?
It's the same emotion. Oh, yeah. The cases for me, it's probably the same with Leah, they settle when they no longer hate the spouse, they're indifferent. Once that happens, then you can settle it.
That's interesting. So do you have this, do you see with clients the stages of the divorce, like the loathing, and then they basically throw their hands up and say, well, this is the way it's going to be? Like, do you see that?
We do. There's a process people have to go through. And so I think that's often affected by how long they wait before they've separated, or after they've separated, before they come to see a lawyer. So there is definitely a calming down period where we see people are more amenable to collaboration and cooperation, and often at that time is when you're able to settle it.
So is there some advice here that if is it better to separate and then wait a while before you go through the divorce process, or is it better to instigate it right away?
I think it depends on the financial situation, whether there was violence, etc. Each case is unique, but the one thing I would say is don't separate, say, on a Monday and hope to have it all resolved by a Friday, because that's unlikely to happen. Get your advice. Come see Leah, me, or Sarah. Get your advice as to what could happen to you. Make your decisions, and then deal with, protecting the property so it doesn't get sold, or disposed of, and those kind of things. And then get your disclosure. Then you can settle it once you've had second thought.
All right. When we come back, we're going to find out more about what sort of steps you should go through when you're thinking about this, and I'm sure most of your clients have been thinking about it for a while before they come to see you. We're speaking with our family law practitioners here. We have David Halkett, he's a partner at McQuarrieHunter in Surrey, and Leah Donaldson, an associate. And we'll continue our conversation next on CL 650.
There's more of the show still ahead. This is The Law Show on CL 650.